District Board of Trustees meeting. And members of the public wishing to address the board may indicate their desire to do so during the relevant portion of the agenda. Persons wishing to provide comments on an agendized item should raise their electronic hand in the Zoom platform to address the board when that item is under consideration. Persons wishing to address the board on matters not on the agenda should raise their electronic hand in the Zoom platform during the public comment portion of the agenda. Please be advised that board members cannot respond to comments regarding a non-agendized item. When it's the speaker's turn to comment, the board president will call on that person. Staff will unmute the speaker. All speakers are requested to state their full name and affiliation with the district, if any, at the beginning of their comments when they're invited to speak. Board policy ordinarily limits the time to be devoted to any single agenda topic to 10 minutes, and individual speakers are ordinarily limited to 3 minutes. If the board decides to expand the amount of time to be allocated to a particular agenda item because many speakers wish to address that item, the board may reduce the time allocated to the individual speakers to 2 minutes or to 1 minute as appropriate in order to permit more speakers to comment. The board will announce the amount of time to be allocated to each speaker before public comment on each particular agenda item. The time allocated to each speaker will be displayed on the Zoom screen. When a speaker's time has expired, staff will mute the speaker. We'll not notify speakers their time has expired, so speakers should monitor their own time carefully. Please note this also means that we do need everybody who intends to speak to raise their hand before we begin speaking, and we will make a note of who is in the queue at that time. Those will be the speakers that are allowed to speak. With that, we are ready to take a roll call.
Student trustee Stitt.
Here.
Trustee Thompson.
Here.
Trustee Stevenson.
Here.
Trustee Ginn. I see him. Trustee Ginn.
I'm here.
Vice President Dubois.
Here.
President Sarver.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to approval of the agenda. And I would like to make one adjustment. I would recommend that we move item 15.1 below 15.2 and 15.3 so that we have a smooth flow from the public hearing for the independent study policy into the board actions on the independent study policy. If that seems appropriate to everybody. And if there are no other changes, I'll accept a motion. Okay.
I need to pull item 715.
We're not on that
sorry.
yet.
Sorry.
That will be in the consent calendar.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. For the overall agenda, do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Okay. All right, then all in. Is there a, we're all set? All those in favor of approval agenda? Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, who was the second to the chair? Who seconded the motion?
I don't think we had a second.
Okay.
Okay.
It's me, but you couldn't hear me. I had the mute on.
Okay.
Aye. Okay. All right, we'll get smoother as we go here.
Oh my goodness. We're rusty.
Okay. All right, that brings us to item 6, our report out on closed session. In closed session, we took action on one item by a vote of 5 board members in favor, none against. The Board of Trustees approved the settlement agreement for case number 2021-2022-1. All right, this brings us to the approval of the consent agenda. and we will get to any changes to that. The board action is to approve all the following items, which is taken simultaneously with one motion, which is not debatable and requires a unanimous roll call for the passage. The action indicated on each item is deemed to have been considered in full and action taken is worded therein. Only members of the board and the superintendent may remove items from the consent agenda. Members of the public may provide comments at the start of the consent agenda item, which may convince a board member or the superintendent to remove an item for further discussion. So please note, this is a change in protocol that has been made to come into alignment with other districts in the area and with the advice of council. With that, we will first accept any public comment about the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 719. Not seeing any hands go up. Does any member of the board or the superintendent have any items that they wish to pull from the consent agenda at this time? And Carrie, I know you had one.
Yeah, item 715, I need to pull.
Okay. All right, so 715 will be pulled. Are there any other items that any board members wish to pull? Okay, then I will accept a motion as worded in the public content.
I shall move to waive the reading of the consent agenda, accept the reports, adopt the resolutions, and approve other items.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Carrie seconds. This is a roll call, please.
Student trustee Stid,
Approve.
trustee Thompson,
Yes.
trustee Stevenson,
Yes.
trustee Ginn,
Yes.
vice president Dubois,
Yes.
president Sarver.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you. Before we leave the consent agenda, then I would like to deal with item 7.15, approval of the contract for the parent venture, formerly CSM Consulting, for implementation of the parent education series. And Carrie, you pulled this?
Yes, I need to abstain because I'm a board member of that nonprofit organization.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any comments or a motion for approval on this item?
So with enthusiasm, I'd like to make a motion to approve this contract, which in the past for many years has done wonderful things for the district.
Okay. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Rich seconds. Does this need to be a roll call or is this just a vote? I believe for one item, it's just a vote that we do. Okay, so, yeah. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none. Abstentions? One abstention, trustee Dubois. Okay, thank you. All right, and that brings us along to our special recognitions. And this is our first opportunity for Dr. Williams to provide superintendent's recognitions.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, President Sarver, and to the Board of Trustees. I am excited today about our recognition for East Palo Alto Academy Summer Bridge teachers. Over the summer, I had an opportunity to visit a wonderful engagement with students in their summer bridge actions and also activities. Many of the students of which this was their first time being in person and in school. And then also not only our incoming freshmen, but our returning 10th graders. And so it was a joy to watch how the teachers put together a program that acclimated them to school and not only school, but re-entering school, but also to believe in themselves. And it wasn't so much just about, oh, you can do it. It was really having them to dig deep and to understand about why do you fear certain things and how can you overcome those fears? And then also, how can you use that energy to do well in school and to apply that to every area of your life? And so today, what I would like to do is, before I turn it over to our wonderful and amazing principal, I would like to honor our teachers by allowing them to share with us the wonderful experience that they had with the students. And I would like to recount, there was one student in particular that I had a chance to observe in this process. And one of the teachers asked the student, "Do you believe in me?" And the student responded, "Yes." And then the teacher proceeded to say, "Well, do you believe in yourself?" And the student said, "No." And you'll understand more when you see the activity. And the activity was having them have this board and for them to use all of their energy and focus in terms of positivity and to break through that board. But once the student had stood up and actually used her force and all that she had within her, she was able to push through by direction of the teacher. And if you could have just witnessed the excitement, the exhilaration from that student, her shoulders, she stood straight, she smiled, and she was so proud of herself. It almost brought tears to our eyes. And President Sarver was there to join in also the participation. While we did not do the activity because we knew we would break through, as you'll see in a minute, but we did enjoy, and it was great to see. So without further ado, I would like to turn it over to our wonderful principal, Ms. Amaka Gayame, who will give us further explanation.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Welcome back for the Happy New Year. What I want to explain first is the background very quickly. I think some of you know about the Ohio Way. We studied our graduates in college, and we were trying, when we realized their persistence rate was too low, we were interviewing those who stayed in college and persisted in those who dropped out. And that's when we designed the Ohio Way to answer those challenges.
And where I come from, so forth. Another lesson we found necessary to teach was growth mindset, called bullet mindset. And so we developed this lesson. And so, for example, well, I guess I shouldn't tell you the name of the student. She's a minor. This student named Crystal, she's scared of math. So you see how on the board she wrote her name and what she's afraid of. And so what happens then, I'll let my wonderful colleague explain further, but I wanted to make sure I set the stage that this activity isn't just about, oh, let's do something fun, but kids can really experience what it means to have growth mindset. It's far deeper than that, because even in our most recent study of our college graduates who are persisting at a rate of 80% at universities, they will tell you, oh, you know, when they're teaching about growth mindset, you really need that in college. They did that just last week when the alumni came and were interviewed about what they needed to persist in college by the students at Summer Bridge. We have an alumni day where they did this. So that sets the stage of how profoundly important this is, beyond even what Dr. Lynn will be able to describing. Without further ado, I'd love to have the teachers who actually implemented this tell you more.
Thank you for having us today. My name is Danielle Martin. I'm the CTE engineering, makerspace, and build teacher. I've done a lot of things in my life, but I went to undergrad at University of Rhode Island and I got my master's at Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy Green. I'm my first year at East Palo Alto Academy. I am an instructional aide, helping out the math department. I'll also be helping reimagining after-school programming. I graduated from Stanford Pacific University with a major in science, technology, and society.
So the day that was described by the superintendent, she kind of snuck in at just the right time. We had all the students, we actually this year for Summer Bridge, we did it with both our 10th, rising 10th and 9th graders because we weren't able to do it the year before. And we do 10 full days, or not full days, half days with those students, and we go through each part of the Bulldog Way. And so this was on day 4, which is mostly about mindset. But the guiding question of that day is there power and self-belief? And so the way we set up the activity is Mr. Ang, who's one of our longtime teachers, has been doing this a long time, would get up and demonstrate with one student, and then we would do it kind of spread out with every one of the students that are in one of the programs. So every student got a full board, put their name on it. This year we didn't actually have them write anything on it. What we actually had them do is break them and then create a collage about the things they wanted to change. And we created a big mural that we're going to install in the building. But the way I set it up, we're going to do it here unless somebody else wants to do it. Huh? No? I'm not one of us. When Jeremy does it. All right. So here's your board. Have you ever broken a board before?
Yeah, I think I have.
Okay. So when you
Not lately.
got to be on camera, I guess. Okay. And so remind me your name.
Chris.
Chris. How you doing, Chris? Okay. So when you look at this board, do you believe you can break it just by looking at it?
Yes.
Yes.
And I know the answer is supposed to be no.
What about this gets you excited about breaking?
A little challenge. Doesn't
Okay.
seem obvious that I should be able to do it.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think scares you about
Looks
it?
like it could be painful, right?
It looks like it could be painful. Okay. So the first steps is to be really safe about it. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna hold it for you. I'm gonna hold it in a way so that you're not gonna hit me,
Right?
but you gotta go all the way through.
Okay.
All right. And then what are some of the other rules you think?
Chris, would you mind giving me a stance? Powerful athletic stance,
Yeah,
whatever
how you
feels
gonna
most
stand?
comfortable
How
for
about
you.
that?
And before we get started, if we could please practice. Before hitting the board, we don't want to go with closed hand. We want to make sure we have an open hand,
Okay, the whole hand? or-
closed fingers. And you got it, Chris. We want to make sure we use that
Yeah,
palm
palm.
to break through. That's what.
Okay. Can I reach that far?
Yep. Yeah. So you want to stand, you want to be safe.
Yep.
Right. And we'll try it a few times. If it's
And hit
scary,
the center of the board?
center
like
of the
me?
board,
Okay.
right? With the most power of your hand. And the other
Yeah.
thing, it took me like, I don't even know how long, but I was afraid I was gonna hurt the person holding it. And that person was like, you need to trust me. It was actually Mr. A. And he said, look at my chest right here. Don't look at anything else.
Power
Focus
down.
on what you're,
Okay.
right? So I was like a C. I remember it very clearly. There's a C on his chest. He's like, don't look at my face. Don't look at the board. That's what you're trying to break through.
Okay.
Okay. And then basically, yep.
Yeah, a few warm-ups, a few reps.
Make sure you use like yeah, to be safe, yeah, part of your hand.
Absolutely. You got it.
Okay.
You feel you have a
Yeah.
comfortable stance?
Yep.
Okay.
Now,
Ready?
before we get started,
Yeah,
you believe in Miss D?
absolutely.
She's
She's gonna actually break it like this.
Yeah, no, see, and it's like, no, it's not we didn't score the board or anything, right? But the point is, do you believe
In yourself.
in yourself? Because this is an activity around the power of self-belief.
I do.
Okay, it sounds a lot.
I do.
It also helps if you show a little bulldog love and everybody cheers.
Absolutely.
Are you ready?
You got it.
I'm ready.
All right, no,
Try.
you gotta do it right in the center,
Right in the center.
okay? And you gotta use your whole body. That's why he was asking you
With
about
the
your
stance?
stance,
Okay.
right?
Do a little twerk. We're gonna
Yep.
start from the
And
bottom,
you wanna
do a
go
little
really
twerk,
all the way through.
And we finishing all the way through.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Great job.
Okay, a picture of you three.
Yeah.
So thank you. And so in recognition of the hard work, and your contribution.
I'd just like to give you this recognition that is so well deserved, Mr. Green, and then also Ms. Martin. Thank you. And thank you. Our trustee
Can we get a picture with the superintendent?
I'm really surprised you did take the word.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you can see how important it is for us to continue to inspire our students and that we're ready for the school year to begin. Our teachers, our school leaders, they're on campus and they're willing and they're ready. Also, we have a recognition for the Boys and Girls Club for the summer program. And what's really important about their recognition is that they really stepped up in terms of providing a plan, a partnership, to help our students. And so I'm going to turn it over to Bonnie Hanson. Bonnie?
Thank you, Dr. Williams. I'm so glad to get to introduce this recognition this evening. As we all know, the Boys and Girls Club of the Peninsula have been tremendous, consistent, impactful partners to us for a long time. And so it was no surprise that when the pandemic hit, they stepped up just like they always had to come alongside us and to come alongside our students. So in addition to the support groups that they made available last fall to students when they were learning to remotely, about last January, I got a call from Jenny Obiaya, who is their chief program officer and my fairy godmother. And she said, "Hey, Bonnie, we want to do what would be most helpful for the district for your students this summer. What would that look like?" And I said, we're expanding summer school a lot and offering a lot of credit recovery options, but we also have a significant number of students who are not going to be able to put into classes with district teachers because they are exhausted. And we are using our district teachers with our students who flunked classes. But we got a lot of kids who need to make up Ds to maintain their UC A through G eligibility and their college focus. And if you guys could do a program for those kids, that would be amazing. And I'll talk a little bit about that afterwards. But first, I want us to take 2 minutes to watch the video that the Boys and Girls Club came up with to advertise our partnership.
Bonnie, there's no sound.
Anna, can we fix the sound?
Out of school, now you working and focus on fashion. Pretty girl in that gold. Got time, but you got goals. Hey, baby, waste your time with me, California. Hey, baby, waste your time with me, California. La 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 la, yeah, I'm better than 1-0. La 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 la, now we at the same house party. La 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 la, if you wanna waste time, baby, waste your time with me in California. Hey, baby, waste your time with me in California.
Right, exactly. And boy, did they deliver. So 326 of our students were a part of the Boys and Girls Club summer program and had summers where they were supported and enriched and encouraged on their journey towards the most post-secondary opportunities possible. And we are so grateful to the Boys and Girls Club for helping us to take care of as many kids as we possibly could well. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to see if they have any comments. We have with us this evening, Jenny, aka Fairy Godmother Obiaya, Esme Ortiz, who is the Vice President of High School Post-Secondary at the Boys and Girls Club, Michael Jones, a Kid Whisperer, Vice President and longtime Redwood City Clubhouse leader, and Lena Potts, also a Kid Whisperer, the Director of the East Palo Alto Clubhouse. Thank you all for providing such meaningful and enriching summers for our kids in the areas where they needed it the most.
Absolutely. Thank you, Miss Bonnie. Hi, everyone. On behalf of Team BGCP, we want to thank you, Bonnie, Superintendent Williams, and the entire board and district for this acknowledgement. Think you all saw from the video all of the various BGCP programs that Sequoia Union High School students engaged in this summer. But what was really most important to us was really providing a caring space for students where they could safely reconnect with their friends and just have fun. And that certainly came to fruition. Mike, Esme, Lena, and their teams have endless stories of summer fun that I'm sure they'd be happy to share with folks on another occasion. But for now, we're gearing up for the start of the school year, and we're really looking forward to continued collaboration with the district to fulfill our mission of empowering our students to thrive. And so we're so grateful for this partnership and excited for what's to come. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you so much. You know,
Thank you all.
I think this is probably one of the greatest examples of how it takes a village to raise a child. And the Sequoia Union High School District's partnership with the Boys and Girls Club of the Peninsula is one of the strongest, most impactful partnerships in the lives of the students that come to us. There are so many students who benefit so greatly from the second home they have there at the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Peninsula. And it's an opportunity to extend the outreach, to expand the school day and the school year, to give our students that safe place to really come in and grow and keep on learning and keep on thriving. And the ways in which this partnership really relies on that close communication and the understanding of how we can work together to give the students more through this partnership really just makes all the difference in the world. And we cannot thank you enough for being that strong ally out there that is really expanding the opportunities for our students across the district. Thank you. Okay, with a shock, we always have to move on from recognitions and get on to other business. So thank you very much. But this is also a sweet transition, not just bittersweet, because we are welcoming our new student trustees, and Isabel Steed is going to be able to give us a quick little update on what's been going on in the summer and how you're busy preparing yourself for the school year, what you're looking forward to. And it's a thrill for us to have you here with us here a week before school starts. Welcome.
Thank you. I would say myself, like I'm sure all my other fellow students I've thoroughly enjoyed my summer. And I would say, well, I'm fairly excited about going back to school. That sentiment may not be shared by all students. But I'm very nervous and excited. This will be the first time I'm back in a classroom with all my other classmates for the first time in 18 months. And I think I speak on behalf of all my fellow students when I say that I'm looking forward to seeing some semblance of normal despite COVID and the Delta variant. And I'm very interested in seeing the plan the district has for our return to school. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And I believe Carlos is not with us. Okay, so it's just Isabel today. So we will move on to our comments from the Sequoia District Teachers Association and Ask Me. And rather than just relying on my memory from last year and where we left off, I'm going to say to start the new year, we'll go in the sequence that's listed here, and we'll ask Edith to speak on behalf of SDTA for us first.
All righty. Welcome back to school, I guess. We have been in meetings and trainings, our SDTA reps, for a lot of the summer. We took advantage of the fact that CTA kept all of their trainings virtual, and in their wisdom, they also chose not to charge anyone to attend virtual trainings. So that meant we got a lot of extra opportunities this summer, which is really great. And then we've had a couple of our groups get together up in Burlingame this week. So the school year has started in earnest for us. And we are looking forward to coming back to experiencing our first outdoor convocation next week, and then getting back inside our classrooms. And I can say, while everyone's got a different level of excitement or trepidation about how we're going to readjust and get back into face-to-face teaching and try to minimize those screens that kids have been on and all of that. Everybody is excited to be back face-to-face and back in their classrooms. So we will make it work. I'm gonna ask Trustees Stevenson and Dubois where they got their swanky masks so that I can teach my students proper tongue and mouth placement for pronunciation in Spanish 1, and not have to make an embarrassing video of myself doing that will be shared far and wide. So we're looking forward to a good year. We've got a lot to do and a lot of new people to meet, and it's going to be exciting.
Thank you. Yes, it is going to be exciting. I think a lot of excitement, a lot of trepidation, a lot of hard work that has been done, and a lot of hard work and excitement ahead of us. And so let's move on to Grace Horton to speak on behalf of Ask Me.
Good evening, everyone. Ask Me is excited to be back on the scene with everybody. With the beginning year. And as I said earlier to Dr. Williams, welcome Dr. Williams to the new team. Looking forward to working with you, hoping that the collaboration is positive and energetic, just the way I'm receiving your energy. I can't say enough about Boys and Girls Club. My heart was racing when I hear Boys and Girls Club, because I'm actually a product of BGCP back when I was in 5th grade at Garfield School. So it was so exciting. And my kids are also byproducts of Boys and Girls Club. They are tremendous peers and mentors. I just can't say enough. So again, my heart speaks for itself as it thumps in my chest. It is just super exciting to always have Boys and Girls Club. Michael Jones is gosh, to say the least, a precious gift to every family, every student, every school. So I have grown to admire his patience and everything that he does for the kids. So that is my testament for Boys and Girls Club. So here's to a successful 2021, 2022.
Okay, this moves us along now to the two parts of public comment. The first is correspondence, and there hasn't been a large pile of correspondence pouring in over the summer, but I'm sure we'll get our stride going as we enter into the school year. So I have three pieces of correspondence that we summarized today, coming from, as you can see, a group called the Concerned Community, and from Meredith Park and Carol Ann Coleman. And the first set of questions in there are all about restarting classes in the fall. And that also went to Superintendent Williams, who responded to that group that not only will the presentation on start of the year this evening focus on answering these and other questions, but also that the session that she will be hosting tomorrow evening for public participation will go into greater depth and answer public questions. So we should have a lot of information forthcoming and more getting posted onto the website as well. All right, the other two then at the bottom, that it would be good for Sequoia Union High School District to join with Redwood City together in advocating for full restoration of the Samtrans 295 bus route through Redwood City. And the hope that the issue can be presented at freshman and sophomore orientations next week. And parents might have an opportunity to sign a petition to encourage Samtrans to do that. And that has been shared with staff so that they can reach out and gather all the information we can to really be able to work with that. And then the final comment was a reminder that our students really need great compassion as they continue to work through the pandemic. The impacts have been very severe, including academically and in their school lives. We need to provide creative solutions to minimize the negative impacts of dealing with these extraordinary challenges. And that certainly resonates with everything that this board and governance team is working on at this point. Okay, next brings us along to public comment for speakers wishing to address the board on matters not on the agenda. So this is the opportunity to raise your Zoom hands if there's anything that you wish to talk about that is not an agendized item this evening. And then we will take a checkpoint of how many speakers we have and whether we can go with 3 minutes apiece or we need to adjust that. I'm not seeing hands go up yet among the attendees. I've seen the first hand go up. And it is a blast from the past. Okay. If nobody else has anything that is a non-agendized item, then we'll go ahead and we'll invite our student trustee emeritus, Sathvik Nori, to tell us what's on his mind.
Thank you. I hope you guys don't miss me too much already, but I just wanted to say that I'm super excited to see our new student trustee, Isabel Stidden, and I wish her the best of luck in the upcoming school year. And I can't wait to see all the great things she does representing the students on the school board. So thank you.
Thank you. And a reminder of what a great history of student trustees we have had, and Sathvik's ongoing interest and engagement in the board and the district is really a shining example. It has been wonderful to have him around, and we are excited to have Isabel and Carlos. All right, this moves us on to our information items. And we will begin with the very exciting Sequoia Union High School District fall reopening presentation. Dr. Williams.
Thank you. And to everyone, I just wanted to say that I am elated to be before you as your new superintendent. When I arrived 3 weeks ago, now going to my 4th week, one of the tasks that was before me was actually creating the return to school plan for the fall. And as you all know, that our guidance has been changing by minute, by the hour, and we are still moving forward. And so as I come to you with layered emotions, one is, of course, the excitement of having our students to return. And the other is also regarding the concern that we move with caution. And that we move with caution, understanding that we are still in a pandemic. And being within that pandemic, while we understand we're welcoming our staff, our students, that safety is our priority for everyone. And so as we receive questions, as your concerns come to us, understand that we are going to consistently update our policies and our protocols so that we are following the guidance properly, and so that we're putting all protocols in place to ensure the safety of everyone. And I'm glad that someone sent the comment regarding our kids need more compassion, because in addition to our kids, we all, our teachers, our staff members, our principals, our counselors, our trustees, your superintendent, we all need a certain level of compassion, and most importantly, a level of grace as we all push forward and push through into the new year. And so with that, I am excited to present to you, along with our team, our fall reopening plan and protocols, to give you tonight's overview that we hope will address some and many of your questions, and then invite you to look at our comprehensive plan to review on our website starting tomorrow afternoon. And so with that, let us begin. So fall opening. Wanting to first say, we welcome all of you back. We welcome you back to school. We welcome students back to in-person lessons. Over the summer, when I've had a chance to engage with our student community, many of them said, take the computers away. I need my teachers back. And so we are responding to that call, and we are welcoming every single one of you back into the classroom starting August the 11th, and we look forward to it. So our first day of school. So during our first day of school, we want everyone to understand and to realize that our goal is to make sure that we are following the guidance that has been provided to us from the County Office of Health, also the San Mateo County Office of Education, the San Mateo County Health Department, and that we have put together these protocols with our students in mind, and also with the protocols and mandates that have been presented to us. We are committed to following this process as we see additional variants that come, that we have to deal and respond to these variants. We just want you to know that we are staying abreast of new developments. We are going to consistently update our guidelines so that they continue to remain in alignment with state and local mandates. And so as for that, as you look to, and we go through the presentation, please feel free to ask us questions later on, and also to raise some new things, some ahas that maybe we have not considered, because we know that this plan and these protocols are put in place so that we can ensure that we remain in school throughout our 21-22 school year.
All right, we'll be reviewing the health and safety, some of overview of our protocols. If you can go to the next slide, please. So as required by the California Department of Public Health, the County Office of Education, San Mateo public health department, recommended by CDC now, that all students and staff will be wearing masks indoors. And that's particularly when students are present in there, and that's whether you're vaccinated or not. So in our schools, all students and staff will be wearing masks indoors, with some exemptions, and those are medical or other health conditions or disabilities that might prevent mask wearing. Also, if you're under 2 years old, but that doesn't normally apply in our school setting. But other risks that might be created if you're wearing a mask. So those are some of the exemptions. Otherwise, all students and staff will be wearing masks indoors. However, masks are optional outdoors. So in any outdoor setting, they're optional. That includes activities, sports, physical education. Of course, you can still wear one, and that might be recommended in specific situations, but not required. Also, students that do not wear masks will be offered a mask, and we'll also be providing them an educational opportunity to understand why masks are helpful and important for the safety of others. And that would be before they might be referred to the independent study program per AB 130. And just the same, if our staff doesn't have a mask, we'll have masks to provide them as well. Next slide, please. So as it has been throughout the pandemic, and even when there isn't a pandemic, regular hand washing is important. So we'll continue to reinforce that in our schools, especially before and after eating or other activities that might require that interaction or use of the hands, as well as respiratory etiquette, which includes covering your coughs and sneezes. And thanks to our facilities team, our maintenance and operations team, we use great cleaning products, Environmental Protection Agency approved products that are specifically designed to help combat COVID-19. We maintain healthy facilities, and that has included improved ventilation. And we want to make sure that our facilities are clean and healthy. So especially when if there has been a case on campus, there's additional cleaning that will come with that. Next slide, please. Our health checks and screening this year will be a little bit different than those that may have been on campus in the spring. All students, staff, and visitors are still required to self-screen daily for any symptoms, or to let us know if you have been exposed to potential COVID-19 case, or if you yourself have been positive. We will have signs posted at the entrance, all the entrances around schools and district buildings, and the facilities that will guide our students, staff, and visitors through their self-screening. This is what is currently happening in a lot of restaurants, a lot of public facilities or businesses, including healthcare facilities. If you've been to Kaiser lately, they're not taking your temperature or anything. There's just a sign reminding us, sometimes a person there to double check that you aren't having any symptoms or any exposure that should keep you out of the building. Our contact tracing procedures, they continue to be updated, especially as we are all working to try and have our students attend school in person. What you see on the right there is the most recent flow chart from the California Department of Public Health. This is from the San Mateo County Office of Education Pandemic Recovery Framework. And we work closely with our public health agencies, our county, and in particular, if we have a positive case in our school community, we will conduct the appropriate contact tracing. We will notify close contacts and follow the protocols for that. All positive cases do have to isolate, no matter what, whether you're vaccinated or not. A positive case will have to isolate for 10 days. In that case, if it's a student with a positive case, they would miss some days of school, could be 6 to 8 days of school, depending on when that count starts. whether when they started symptoms or when they took the test that ended up being positive, and depending on how many weekends there are, but it could be 6 to 8 days. Just like any other absence where our students are sick and may have to miss school, they'll continue to get all the support from their teachers and from the school staff to make sure that they maintain their schoolwork as much as possible. And we'd support them like we would with any other absence. When we have unvaccinated close contacts, that's where the flow chart gets a little trickier, but the ultimate goal is to keep our students in school as much as possible. So for close contacts that are identified, if they are vaccinated and do not have symptoms, they do not have to quarantine. This is staff or students. If you're vaccinated and you're a close contact without symptoms, again, you don't have to quarantine. But if you are unvaccinated, you can either quarantine, that's a 14-day quarantine, or what you'll see in that flow chart, it might be a little small here, but it is in the plan that will be posted. There's an option for unvaccinated close contacts to stay in school as long as they meet 4 requirements. And that is that they continue wearing a mask, that they do not have symptoms, that they do not participate in extracurricular activities, and that they test twice a week during the 10-day symptom watch. And so again, the idea is to keep them in school in person, but they will not be able to participate in extracurricular activities during those 10 days. But this is a most recent update to try and keep as many students in class in person as possible. I think we need to go the other direction. In the event that we do have a positive case, we need to be ready and plan for that. In addition to the contact tracing, the reporting that we'll do with the county, and all the protocols that we'll follow appropriately. We will offer post-exposure testing to staff and students if there is a positive case, if they were impacted by that. So if they were a close contact, as we just mentioned, and they need to do a certain number of tests, or even if they weren't directly a close contact, but maybe they were on campus and want to make sure, we'll refer our staff and students to their healthcare provider, but we also have the option, the opportunity to test through our district testing program. And we'll also be sharing local community resources in collaboration with San Mateo County Public Health Department for them to know where they could get tested in the community as well. Finally, we'll also be working to continue offering vaccination clinics. As we did in the spring, we offered vaccination clinics at 3 of our schools in the spring. And I know that Woodside High School just finalized some plans to offer vaccinations during their orientation this Saturday and on Tuesday. So we encourage our entire school community to get vaccinated, and we want to partner with our schools to offer that within our community.
Thank you, Javier. As mentioned with some of our summer partnerships this past summer and our schools offering extensive credit recovery on campus, as well as enrichment for incoming freshmen below grade level and students who are in their first, second, or third year of our ELD program, partnerships with organizations like the Boys and Girls Club for enrichment. Girls Who Code did a major push for us. Enrichment courses that were offered at the sites. We know that we have got some students who are in poor shape academically. And, one anecdote that was shared this week with me was about students who we were not able to find a teacher for the class. And so they ended up taking the course online, and what a struggle it was for those kids to push through. So we know that even though we're providing as many supports as possible, there are still obstacles. And we're not the only ones who know that. Assembly Bill 104 was passed in July, and it has 3 major repercussions for high school districts. The first one is that per the legislation, any parent or student over the age of 18 can request that any grade they received during the 2020-21 school year or this summer be changed from a letter grade to a pass, no pass mark. One piece that made this tricky is that you had to post that opportunity 15 days within of the legislation being passed. So the legislation was passed on June 15th. We posted the opportunity on the last possible date because we wanted it to overlap with the school year for advertising to our families as much as possible. Families only had the opportunity to request that change in a grade mark until August 15th. And then the legislation says they can't make a request after that. And once the grade is changed, the grade cannot be changed back. So we posted the information on Friday. We did email home in English and in Spanish about the opportunity. And then on Saturday, we did a phone message to all of our families, also in English and Spanish, about the opportunity. What makes this legislation tricky is that having a grade changed from a letter grade to a pass, no pass is not in the best interest of many of our students. So we are contacting anyone who puts in a grade request for anything other than a D to be changed to pass, no pass, because really they should just keep the grade. If you go to the homepage of the district website, you can find all of the information about what universities have said they will honor the pass, no pass grade and which ones aren't. We are working furiously at the district level, at the site level. Counselors are talking about it. Parent liaisons are working on it. Administrators are working on it. Edith and I emailed today and she said, where can teachers go to get more information to tell kids about it? So this is a really time sensitive push for us that will be helpful for some of our kids and not helpful for others. So we're communicating that as well as we possibly can. There's also a hotline so families can call and leave a message, and we're calling them back to have conversations. The second thing that AB 104 specifies is that if you are a student who in 50% or more of your classes in 2020-21 received D's or F's, then you can put in a request, your parent can put in a request for a retention conference, retention and credit recovery, to look at where did you have trouble? How might we be able to make that up? What's the best course of action for moving you back on track for graduation and post-secondary opportunities? Whether or not retention is granted is exclusively the decision of the LEA, but the conferences, when they're requested, it is mandatory that we hold those. We do have a great deal of literature from the county that speaks to the fact that remediation, unless it is coupled with a lot of other interventions, is not proven at the high school level to be a very effective means of credit recovery for students. We're going to be looking at a lot of other options that have had better results. And then students in their third or fourth year of high school in 2020-21, if they are not on track for graduation, they are allowed to graduate with the California High School Diploma's 130 required credits. We are a little bit ahead of the 8 ball on this one because we already did this last year for our 2020-21 graduating class. So while many high school districts are having to go back and find last year's kids and tell them now you get the diploma, we've already done that for all of our kids. So that's a great feeling. So counselors are going to be meeting with students and working through with them who are the likely candidates for that this year. Please note that students cannot use this legislation to graduate from high school early. Our seniors will be taking a full senior schedule and learning all of the material that goes along with that. Here's a little whiplash for you. The term distance learning now has to be taken out of all board policy. So that's a requirement from the legislation. Look for some of our distance learning policy edits coming your way soon. And the reason for that is because the state is recognizing that distance learning is not an optimal way for most kids to learn. As a caveat to that, for families who are concerned about their students' health should they return to school, they're allowing families to request that their student receive an independent study program in this coming school year. And the requirement of that independent study program at the high school level is It needs to offer all of the classes that a student needs to graduate from the high school and to meet UCA through G criteria. And it needs to meet at least once a week for live or synchronous instruction. And that live instruction can be via Zoom, but it has to be time face-to-face with the teacher. Our district's current independent study program meets all of the legislative requirements for independent study. So again, we're in a better place than a lot of districts who didn't even have an independent study program. And what we will be doing is partnering with Edgenuity to have their teachers offer the synchronous instruction that will happen once a week per class for our kids. And then district staff will be supporting students to make sure that they're attending, getting through classes, etc. Students who are not successful in independent study, there's a pretty quick return and some pretty specific criteria for them to return to in-person learning. And something I'm excited about, and we'll say more about on our next slide, is we are adding paper for all of our students. Paper is a program that has proven to be a really big help to our Avid students in the last 2 years. They offer 24/7 tutoring services, and we think that's going to help students a lot in recovery and moving forward. Next slide, please. So we've got resources to help families help their students and students help themselves as well. First, there's the parent portal on Infinite Campus. Also, there's a student portal, and that's where parents can still go to see their students' schedule, their attendance, how they're doing in their classes academically. For families who are new to our district, they will get all of that information in orientations and in the first week of school. Student and family wellness, there's a long list of resources that can be found under the student services sections of the website, and it does translate into Spanish as well. A note on that in summer school, we offered mental health counseling on all of our campuses, both small group and individual, for students who were recovering from a year of being sheltered in place. And then student learning resources. So the paper program, the usage of it by our students was phenomenal. We had some kids who had 172 individual sessions with paper. Interesting to me was that the most popular time to request tutoring was from 11 to 12 at night, which of course supports the biological clock of the teenager. And a big thank you to the Eustace Kwan Foundation, because they are splitting the bill with us to this year offer this to all of our students. We've got some checks and balances in place to see if it is used as much and as effectively as we think that it will be. And finally, staff resources. On the human resources page of the district website, there is a great deal of COVID information for supports that are available, resources for staff. Canvas is, of course, available with a lot of professional development and curriculum opportunities. And finally, our own professional development that is live or on Zoom. Right now, we've got orientation happening for teachers who are new to the Sequoia Union High School District. We've also got new teacher induction happening for teachers who are new to teaching in general. And then professional development for all is still a focus for us. So we had great turnout for the June Institute, our August offerings. We're excited about our September all staff professional development day, and very encouraged by the huge number of offerings being accessed by our staff. They are a crew who is willing to keep on learning, and we are so grateful to them for that and how that shows up in their classroom. And lastly, this summer, as you're aware, there was 10 hours of summer pay for those who wish to take advantage of it to develop return to school assessments and team building, social and emotional learning activities to support students in the transition back to campus. Especially in that first week, we want to make sure that we are taking care of the whole child. We always want to make sure of that, but we want special attention on it in that first week. And I am privy to all of the professional development that was done by teachers over the summer in those areas, and it's impressive. I'm excited for our students.
So we have spent a little over a year and a half in distance learning. And during that time, the district was able to provide our students with Chromebook and hotspots. That is something that we want to continue to do into the 21-22 school year. So if a student needs to check out a Chromebook and a hotspot, there will be a form to make that request, and they will be able to do that at their school site. More information will be shared about that during orientation. We also have our learning management system, which is probably very familiar to our 10th through 12th graders, maybe not so much with our 9th graders. But on this learning management system, also known as Canvas, students can find assignments, announcements, and grades. And the district also automatically sets up their parent accounts. That will be further discussed during orientation, and there's also assistance to get our parents up to date so they're able to view their students' grades and assignments. So this really excites me. So in this past year, and even in 2020, when we went into distance learning and in quarantine, food security, right? We saw the lines at the food banks growing, and it was so important for the district to be able to provide food and meals for our families. So we are very excited to announce the continuation of our free meals for breakfast and lunch for our students into the 21-22 year. So they will be able to grab and go. There will be some choices. It will look similar to what it did prior to March of 2020 with just a few alterations. We are asking students to wear masks while they're waiting in line, even if the line is outside. And we are also asking our students to maximize the physical distancing as much as possible while they are in line. Please wash your hands. It's good to practice that hand hygiene before and after meals. And we will be disinfecting and sanitizing our highly touched surfaces around our lunch areas before and after mealtime. So continuing with health and safety, in transportation, we see your student before they get to school, and we are the last to see your student before they go home. And so we are following safety procedures that meet the recommendations of the state and local agencies. We are asking for social distancing while you are waiting to board the bus. There will be seating assignments, self-health screening before you get on the bus, and we are asking that all students and riders of the bus wear the mask and face covering, the same as if you were to ride a Samtrans bus as well. So for more information, there is a full description of our transportation procedures on our website. And I must say, I'm very excited about this. So we are anticipating a full return of high school athletics. So remember when we did all sports in like 9 weeks? We actually get to do the sport in the weather and in the month that we have come so accustomed to over years and years and years. So I do welcome you. We will be following the regulations out of CCS and CIF, your athletic directors at the school sites, as well as all of our coaches, understand the health and safety guidelines, how to mitigate that spread during our athletic seasons, and we will be practicing all those safety protocols. We were pretty good with our conditioning that we offered over the summer, and now that we have further guidance and further opportunity to test and with vaccinations available, I am very excited about a wonderful year of our high school athletic programs.
And as you can see, we are all excited about the upcoming school year. We're ready to welcome our students back. Make sure that if you have any questions, that you can access information to those queries on our website, or you can contact your school sites, your respective school sites, or our district office. But we are expecting 100% full fall in-person return with sports, clubs, activities, social emotional learning support, and all of the resources that we can offer to support our students and our teachers and our faculty and staff and having a successful school year. So looking forward to seeing you all soon, and thank you so very kindly. And thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. What a great bunch of information. I am beginning to see members of our panel putting hands up. Do we have any public comment to this? I do see one or two within our panelist list. Okay, so with that, we'll call on Grace Horton to give some public comment. Grace, you need to unmute.
How's that? Thank you. This is a great presentation. Very anticipated to hear the communication, the rollout plan of what is to come. One question or one particular item that caught my attention was professional development. In that there's going to be a teacher induction to support teachers specifically that have not been a teacher before, so new to the education arena. Just wondering if there's going to be the same resources for classified staff. I know that we have hired in the past individuals that are excited to join and be part of the education landscape, but they've just never worked in the education field. So just wondering if you guys also had that in mind for classified staff.
I can't speak to all classified staff new hires and orientation, but I can tell you that all of our paras are going to be in a 4-hour training the day before school starts with Rich Villa on how do you effectively support the teacher and the students in the classrooms where you're working. And then something I'm also really excited about this year is that we're going to be offering 6 hours of social emotional learning and for our staff, and that's going to be for both classified and certificated staff. And how are we culturally responsive and supporting all of the students on our campuses from when they first step onto the bus and say good morning to the bus driver to the end of the day when they are heading for home.
Thank you, Bonnie. Can you give me that name again? You mentioned an individual.
I did. I mentioned Rich Villa, and he is somebody who has done extensive work with our certificated staff on co-teaching and how do we involve all of the adults in the room in supporting all of the students in the room in their learning.
Okay, so Rich Villa will be available, you said, for that 4-hour para training, or that was for the teachers?
No, that's for the paras.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Isabella, let's hear from you.
Hi, I was just going to ask because I saw in the presentation they had different protocols for students that are exposed to COVID based on whether or not they're vaccinated. How are students going to be reporting their vaccination? Is it self-reporting their vaccination status? Will they need to prove it, like send in photocopies of their vaccination cards? I was just wondering about that. And then also, are there still going to be zones of separation when on campus?
Great questions. If we're responding to questions, it seems like we are. I'll answer that. in terms of knowing whether a student is vaccinated or not, yes, up until now during contact tracing, which we have had to do, and we have had cases where we're doing contact tracing with students as well. It is mostly on the honor system. We can ask for verification, but it is, like I said, mostly on the honor system, whether a person is vaccinated or not. We will be, per Cal OSHA requirement, we will be getting a staff status if they're vaccinated or not. So we will have a record of that when there's a case. But for students up till now, we're not at the point where we're requiring it like other vaccinations, where we get proof of vaccinations or immunizations in the student record. But long story short, yes, it will be on the honor system. But in certain cases, we may ask for verification of that. And there isn't a general rule or a general requirement or guidance for zoning. There are recommendations to try and limit, just like there's recommendations to try to eat outdoors if you can, for example, but that doesn't mean you cannot eat indoors. So there are a lot of recommendations and I guess like ideal situations, like even social distancing. It's ideal to social distance, but in the state of California, we could go down to 0 social distance if that's what it takes to, again, to have our students be in person on campus. So the zoning deal, you probably won't see that like you did last year, just like we won't have one directions, hallways like we saw during the school year last year, or specific bathrooms for certain areas, because our students are going to be moving from class to class anyway. So it won't be like if you were on campus during the spring, some of those setups are not required anymore. So it'll be more similar to how it was before the pandemic. Of course, everyone will be wearing a mask.
Okay, with the first question that came from our student trustee, we've moved over into trustee comments and questions. I did see another attendee hand go up while that was going on. Does the board wish to hear from one more member of the public before the board continues, or are we ready to be in board question and answer at this point?
Either way.
Okay, I would like to then stick with our protocol that we have moved into board discussion, and I'll continue now to just take input from board members. Carrie, your hand was up.
Yes, first of all, thanks for that very comprehensive and exciting presentation. I'm no longer a parent in the district, but if I were a parent, I would have been happy to see all of those great slides. I have a couple of questions for Javier to start with. I want to talk about, all students, all staff in masks. I may have missed this on the slide, but there are certain health conditions where you cannot wear a mask. An example would be something like trigeminal neuralgia, which is a neurological condition. And so people literally, in some cases, cannot wear a mask. It will trigger extreme pain. Even, what goes over the ears, in some people will it trigger extreme pain on a scale from 1 to 10, like 10 level of pain. And in our huge district, I bet there's somebody out there in our district that might have that condition or other conditions. So it can't really be all. And so what I worry about, like if a student had a condition like that and was not able to wear a mask, I don't want that student to be bullied. So how do we handle that as a district?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. It was in the presentation that we didn't have the detailed list of the exemptions, but it did say with exemptions. And some of those exemptions I described include medical conditions like the one you described, people with like I said, medical condition or other health conditions, people with a disability that prevents them from wearing a mask. There's also certain situations where people might be hearing impaired. And so to communicate with that person, we may have to either remove a mask or some of you have like a clear mask. So there are risks that would come to a person either due to a health condition or disability. We take that into consideration and we'll create a plan for that student's exemption. So yeah, there are exemptions outlined in all the guidance that we've seen, including, like I said, if you're under 2 years old, but that doesn't usually apply to our school setting. But that's also in there. And I know that we have situations, especially in our special education department, where we have already been making accommodations. We did it during summer school and during the spring last year. In some cases, we're able to find alternative masks, like it could be a face shield instead, to still, try and protect the safety of our staff and other students. But in some cases, we understand that students are not able to because of the condition.
Yeah, I just hope our community also understands that in some cases you really can't wear masks. My second question related to masks is students being referred to independent study. One of the things I've been thinking about, because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to have a real view on discipline because kids weren't with us. And in some cases, maybe a defiant student just didn't show up, right? Wasn't the regular classroom situation. And for me, and I know our district definition, when it comes to discipline, we are restorative, and discipline means teaching, or discipline issues, behavior issues, are a window into a student needing more support. So I'm picturing right now the defiant student that doesn't want to wear the mask. It would be great to sort of track that somehow, because again, that's a window into kids needing more support. So are you following kind of what I'm thinking?
Yes. So I appreciate you mentioning that too, and kind of taking it to the next level. We did mention that we won't just say, okay, you're not going to wear a mask. All right, you're going to independent study. The first, we're going to provide masks and educational opportunities, and that aligns with the restorative part that you're talking about, where it's not just do this or else. It's more about educating them, helping them understand why masks are important, how that helps not just themselves, but people around them, and the overall safety of people around them. So there is definitely an educational component before we just move them on to independent study. I want to point out that this is something the state left up to each school district. Initially they said the student will be excluded, period. And then a day or two later, they backtracked and said, oh, actually, this is going to be up to each school district. And so what we're going for is not just excluding, like was the original state idea. It is going to be providing a solution for that. Like maybe you don't have a mask, or maybe, access to a mask is harder for you, and really trying to understand why they aren't wearing a mask. And then providing the educational opportunity for that. But there will be a point where if it's recurring, ultimately the safety of our other students and staff there, again, we want to welcome everyone back onto campus, in-person learning. And so we want to maximize that opportunity for more students, and we don't want to compromise the safety of the majority, so to speak, for a few, right? Or continue to disrupt learning in the classroom. So that would be kind of the last, the last measure after we provide educational opportunities and really try to understand what the issue is for that student. What I appreciate you mentioning is the window to potentially needing support beyond that. Sometimes when a student is defined, it may not be about the mask. It may be a bigger issue. It may be that they're doing it because there's another reason they don't want to be at school, or their parent, we won't know that, but I appreciate you mentioning that it may be about more than the mask. And so, with our restorative lens and our social emotional lens, that we're going to continue to provide professional development and training for our staff to understand, helping them see that sometimes what we're seeing on the surface isn't really the issue, and how can we find out what that issue is. So that's what I have to offer.
Thank you. Great answers. And then my last question is for Crystal. we had our board retreat recently, and we talked about, lessons learned during the pandemic. We had, 2 full days together, so there was lots of great conversation. And, for me, I think one of the great lessons, but hard lessons, was the difficulty so many of our students had with technology. So it's more than just, passing out the Chromebooks and the hotspots, right? I mean, we have students that still don't have great connectivity. So I know that I've heard from many teachers in our district that would be so great to test out that technology piece before the first day of school, so that kids really are operational and they don't lose any time. Is that at all possible? Is that what we're doing this year, or do we have to wait for the first day and then?
Well, it depends on what you mean by testing. So when we got our order, for all of our new Chromebooks for this year, I mean, we turn them on, we install our software, we make sure that they are able to log on to all the appropriate accounts, and then they have all of the protections on them. This is really going to be a year of kind of transition in technology, right? Because we brought in these additional tools for teachers to use in their classrooms when we were in distance learning. And some of them will still work as far as like some of our students meeting on Zoom and completing group projects. And so the use of the Chromebook in the classroom is going to differ, right? We aren't delivering 100% of our instruction through this device. So I do think that there's going to be some trial and error, but the resources are all in one place to deal with any trial and error that we have, right? Because the student is with us. So if the student is in class and unable to log in through their device, we can send a tech to work on that. We can have, kind of like a mini geek squad at each site to help students with hookups. But I do see this as a year of transition we're so fatigued, right, with our devices, but what's going to stay and what's going to not? And then do we feel better just because I know you're sitting right next to me, even though, we may be working on our assignment through our device?
Okay, Shawnice.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for the presentation. Jared, I know that Javier, you have been busy with all our health protocols since last year. So thank you for providing all the questions and answers today. I do have a question. All right. I do have a question today about, and I'm not for sure where this lies, Javier, if this is you or Jared, but one of the questions that keep going through my mind, and we can talk about it later or now, but in the agenda, but it's around the independent study. And we know that there's some provisions in there around, not sending kids from in-person too quickly to independent study. You have to do like some mediation and all that good stuff to see before you send them if they don't want to wear their mask, if there's some other issues going on. And then that once they do go into the independent study, and I don't know if this belongs here or later in the agenda, so you guys tell me, but it's around managing the attendance piece of it. And I'm thinking as a social worker from a CPS perspective and kids attendance, I know we have a restorative justice process, but there is a limit, right, to everything that we do around attendance and independent study. So for kids who are not responding, what do we do around attendance at our school, whether it's independent study that would result into a person having adverse impacts on their family with Child Protective Services? And I don't know if that belongs here, Jared or Javier, but it's been something that's been rolling around in my mind since independent study came out.
Yeah, I can just quickly mention that it's it's really no different than what we typically do, right? Pre-pandemic, where the school sites in individual intervention teams. Um, it's the job to identify those students, hopefully before they run into high need for intervention, and that's something of the work that has been started under MTSS, our multi-tiered system of supports, identifying tiers of intervention tied directly to student need under academic, behavior, and social emotional learning domains. And so it's no different than before, but we, as the board is well aware, are really right in the middle of continuing that work. We got it off and running the year of the pandemic, only a short 6 months before. So we really look forward to continuing and re-energizing the MTSS effort to reinvigorate our site intervention teams and collaborating with us and student services as well as ed services, academic components to really support our kids as we identify areas of need. And so we could probably talk about that much longer than 1 minute. It's a very complex situation. But our sites are well aware and we're continuing to work. And no different than independent study as well. We take those transitions very seriously as an intervention. Sometimes not an intervention, but also, yes, as an intervention.
Okay, thank you for that. In my head, when I'm thinking about prevention, right? Like, we don't want to get kids to the point where we're having these huge discussions. And part of it is parents as well, because sometimes they don't always know how to engage with the school around some of this information. Is that I really would like us to really do a huge campaign around making sure kids get to school, and that parents know right away that, it isn't the same, right? And so because in people's head, they're like, oh, they just call it independent study when they think it really is distance learning, and they had all this flexibility, and it's not. And so I don't want that to sneak up on any parents. So if there's some way, and I see Bonnie shaking her head, if there's some way we can do an education campaign around that, because they'll be like, oh, they didn't come to school, so I'll go to independent study. Oh, I'm going to go to independent study, but I'm not going to study. And so that's there for me. The other thing, thank you so much, Jared. The other thing is, Bonnie, you talked about a hotline. If you can tell me where that is on the website, that would be helpful for me.
Sure. It's on first of all, it went out in the email to families on Friday, but it is also on the homepage of the district website. There's an announcement that talks about grades, changing grades.
Yes.
And when you click on that, it takes you to a forum in English and in Spanish that lists both the hotline number and the email to contact in English and in Spanish.
Okay, thank you. I had actually a family Facebook me and asked me that. Great. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that I'm not very tech savvy, but I am on Facebook, and I get a lot of families Facebooking me. And so I'm hoping that some of this stuff can go out in video, as well as just clip art or whatever for Instagram and Facebook. We actually have quite a few families who are connecting with me, and of course, I restate what we say, or I'll say refer to the email, and they'll go, oh yeah, let me go through that email again. But there's something about the connection that they like, of like someone answering their questions or telling them where to go. And I just want to put that out for some of our other communities that, not always looking at email, or just need someone just to tell them to look at the email or where the email is. So I just want to put that out there for us. Oh, and the last thing, Bonnie, you said something about the D is not always taking pass, no pass is not always a great thing for students. There's circumstances or certain grades or whatever. I was going to ask, how is the counselors going to communicate that to families to help determine that? Or How is that communicated?
So this is a really difficult item because the state's given us 15 days to communicate and have parents respond. And so for a lot of our communities, this is detailed, and explaining it right is really important. So that's why we have got the hotline. We did, by the way, send out the phone message on Saturday saying, hey, look at your email and look at the district website about this opportunity for the very reasons that you're saying. Lily Quinoas and the parent coordinators at the site are working on it. And the counselors are working on it too. We've just also got the counselors working on kids returning to school. Kids are going to be AB 130 kids. I mean, they just got a lot on their plate. So we're trying to, the kids going to independent study. So I'm looking at each of the grade change request forms. And then my office is calling any student who's requesting a grade change in a course where they did not earn a D. Because really, if they earned a C or better, I mean, frankly, this isn't like 2019-20 in the spring semester where everybody got pass, no pass. And so we put on transcripts. This was the only grade available. And we put that in the school profile. This is different. So honestly, if a kid puts a pass on their transcript for this year, the colleges are going to assume it was a D. So that works if you are planning on attending one of the universities. So all of the UCs have said they'll accept that. All of the state schools have said they'll accept that. And about 15 privates have said they'll accept that, but no one else has. So really, if you got a C or better, you need to just keep your C or better. The other thing that is a little bit precarious is that your GPA determines your Cal grant. So for kids who are right on the cusp of getting a Cal grant or not, that GPA matters. So we're just trying to address these as they come up and to call families back when it looks like the grade change is a bad decision.
Okay. And so are we communicating this to some of our community-based college programs like College Track, Boys and Girls Club, that are doing stuff in the FCE so that they also can share this with families?
We haven't, and that's a great idea.
Okay.
Thank
you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's all for me.
Okay, great. Thank you. Chris, you had your hand up.
Yes, so earlier this evening, I had the special opportunity to remember this. And I was thinking, we're going to break through, we're going to break down the doors of the school, and we're going back to school with enthusiasm. I wanted to take just a moment to acknowledge the tremendous extra effort put into making that happen. A piece of that, I was going to speak to what my colleague Shanice talked about, the extra effort that Bonnie and her team and counselors are doing on this pass, no pass grade change and AB 104 is really quite extraordinary because it's trying to reach out to every student that might be affected by this, and it could make a great deal of difference. I think that's sort of exemplary of a lot of the work that's been going on the past couple of months, and I wanted to acknowledge that. The other thing I wanted to point to was Dr. Williams' virtual community meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock. It seems like that's tremendously important. We have, 49 attendees listening in on this meeting today. We also had an email that I think that's been referenced that asked 9 basic questions. And they were good questions about what happens when we go back to school. And so I hope the word is getting out about the virtual community meeting tomorrow. I expect that's going to be an excellent session. And I don't know whether Dr. Williams wants to say anything more about that, but I would certainly invite that. And I also wonder how that might be coordinated with the messages coming out from the sites.
And so, yes, absolutely. We want to encourage everyone to attend, even those who are on the call today or participating today, because we'll have more time to take questions. And then also, we are planning to coordinate everything that we do. We're coordinating with school sites. And so we want to make sure that we're sending out a common message in terms of our response plan for reopening. And so the principals have been informed. They do have the reopening plan. They have given us feedback. In addition to the principals, it's been a collaborative process in terms of working with both our classified and also our certificated bargaining folk. And so this has been a quick turnaround and a collaborative process. As you mentioned, for Bonnie and her team, they've turned this information around within 2 weeks of the release of the legislation. And so we are in coordination. It is important for myself that families and also the trustees receive a unified, clear, concise yet detailed information regarding our opening protocols and plans. So I invite everyone to come tomorrow, and we will provide the Zoom link. You've been given a message, but we'll resend that message so that we can encourage more attendees.
That's great. Thank you. And so I too would like to thank everybody for this great presentation. This is a very exciting time, and this reflects a tremendous amount of work. The landscape that we're working in is not only one of the situation continuing to change dramatically on the ground with the spread of the Delta variant and continuing vaccinations, et cetera, but we are continuously asking for guidance from the health authorities, which tends to be slowly lagging, and then all of a sudden, boom, here's new legislation that tells you you must do this, you must do that, you must do the other thing, which is often a one-size-fits-nobody solution. And this is a plan that takes all of this together, that reflects the ways in which our organization has been contingency planning all along. The goal has been bright, that everyone is coming back to school on August 11th, but that there needs to be a very rich range of alternatives and exception handling out there, because everyone doesn't fit whatever size we've been given. And we need to fit them where they are and where they're going. We're going to find that our plan is going to be a living document, because conditions on the ground are going to continue to change, because legislative help is going to continue to come out of the woodwork and blindside us and tell us, oh, now you need to be doing this. How come you're not doing that? And we're also going to learn as our students and staff return to the classrooms. There are some things that we planned out very well, and yet when the students are really there, things will go a little bit differently, and we're going to have to refine and tweak it. But one of the things that's already been highlighted and that I appreciate a great deal is that we are looking at these alternatives as flexibility, as alternatives, as mitigations, as opportunities to find success for each student. These are not punishments that we're putting out there for somebody who doesn't comply with the one size that we're compelled to put out there. But we are looking at where it doesn't fit right, how we can turn it into an educational and a restorative opportunity, and what are the alternatives we have available if somebody needs to go down a different path. And I think that's the essence of what we're aiming at here. We are trying to return to the strongest sense of normal we can, but we know it has to be more and better and more flexible than just the old normal. This is what it looks like to be building back better, to be moving forward to a new normal. And there is a strong pathway here for the most of what we're looking for as normal. And there are strong alternatives for what is going to help find a clearer path for some that have special needs to go somewhere else. And so I'm very pleased to see that. And this is obviously what we're all going to be very, very consumed with operationally over the coming couple of weeks. As the rubber begins to hit the road, our staff and students hit the schools, and the educational process really begins in earnest. So thank you for all of this strong preparatory work to get ready to have the greatest success we can.
Thank you. And thank you to the team for doing such an amazing job and providing such informative information.
And I too look forward to tomorrow night's virtual session. Got it right on my calendar.
Thank
All
you.
right, we're ready to move on to our first reading of the new administrative regulations for Title IX sexual harassment complaint procedures.
Yes, thank you, President Sarver. So normally this does not come from my side of the house, but as a Jane of all trades, I thought that I would bring it before you. It is a first reading. So this first reading, the district is required to adopt and post the procedures for conducting our investigations related to sexual harassment and insult under the Title IX for all personnel. So this first reading is related to the personnel piece. It also accompanies another AR and BP that has to be done at the same time. It allows the district to look internally at our process to make sure that we are following the appropriate timelines for our investigations related to Title IX complaints. Training and the procedures for the investigations under Title IX are conducted for all district administrators during the school year by our counsel, Lozano Smith. So this is the first reading. I can take any questions or comments. I may have to circle back with you, and then it will be brought back for adoption at the August 18th meeting.
Thank you. Before we have board questions and comments, are there any members of the public that have any comments to give us by raising your hands? Okay, seeing none there, I do welcome any board questions or comments on this. Okay, I think everybody's pretty satisfied here. We are primarily looking for compliance with this, and everything seems to be in order and consistent. So we can move on to 12.3, the first part reading of sexual harassment complaint procedures for students.
So just to clarify, President Sarver, would it serve the board that this item, at least the one that we seem to be okay with thus far, comes back on the consent agenda?
Yes, I think that's fine.
Okay.
I'm seeing head nodding around the room.
Okay. All right. So moving on to 12.3 is also a first reading. This proposed new administrative reg reflects the Title IX compliant procedures related to sexual harassment for our students. So again, training in these procedures will be conducted for all certificated administrators during this fiscal year by our counsel, Lozano Smith.
Okay, and again, if there are any comments from the public, see them first. And not seeing anybody, does any board member have any comments or, Chris, your hand is up.
Well, I might just make clear that this is a restatement of California Education Code. And so it's not interpreting it. It's required of us. Its language comes to us from CSBA. So Crystal, I thank you for that reference there. And so it seems like we have little leeway. It's appropriate for us to do. And I would like to support the idea of it coming back on the consent agenda.
Perfect. Yeah, I agree with that.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. That allows us to move along, and at this point, I'd like to ask the board quickly. We're coming up on 2 hours here. We're kind of turning a page to another substantial topic. Would the board benefit from a brief recess? Why don't we take the 6 or 7 minutes until 8 o'clock and come back at that time? Okay, so we will be in recess until 8 o'clock. Okay, we are back here in the boardroom. And Chris, I'll ask you to put your hand down because I don't want to hear from you right now. Unless you've got something new for us. All right, so this brings us along to item 13.1, our public hearing to consider the scope, purpose, and other factors related to adoption of the independent study policy 6158.1. What we'll ask Mrs. Hanson to do here is to present both the board policy and the AR for that, administrative regulation, that will allow the public to provide the most informed comments during the public hearing. And then the board will subsequently move on to 5215.3 to ask our questions, hold any discussion, and move for approval of one and then the other. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Hanson.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sarver. So this legislation is what I described in our report on the fall opening of 2021. So it's a little bit of a repeat. It is coming from the state level. It was a little bit of a surprise, frankly, because at the beginning of the summer, we were planning on looking comprehensively at distance learning programs, because even though it was not at all good for most kids, we know for some kids it was really good. And looking at how might we shore up independent study and combine that with some of the distance learning to come up with some sort of a recommendation for 2022-23. And we abandoned that work because we got word from the state level saying, stop, no distance learning, it's over. We're not going to be accepting any independent studies. We're not going to be accepting any distance learning for next year. Get those kids back in school. The at-home learning has not been the healthiest option for them. So I don't live in Sacramento, but my guess is that this is a response to a fear expressed on the part of some families about their students returning to a school setting, and that this legislation is meant to address that and give an option to families who just really don't feel that it is safe for their students to return to school. I think that the fact that at the high school level, it only requires synchronous instruction once a week and doesn't even specify the length of time of the synchronous instruction is a statement about the desire to make this attractive to students. Because I think we can all agree that for the most part, while independent study is a real savior for some kids, it's not the best option for an awful lot of them. So this legislation aligns, we are fortunate, with the independent study program that the district already had. We are changing our program a little bit because we anticipate that there will be more students wanting this option. So we are, instead of just using the Edgenuity platform for the curriculum, we are also going to be using their teachers to help with the instruction. And then our staff will be following up and making sure that kids are on track, that they're doing the work, making sure we get kids back to school if their attendance isn't good, if they're not making adequate progress to completing their courses. The legislation also specifies that independent study must afford students the same access to graduation requirements and to UCA through G that they would get if they were attending school in person. Our proposal does that. We have chosen Edgenuity for that because they are a known entity to us. And before Edgenuity, we had a couple other programs that we were not happy with. We switched to this when Edgenuity was overwhelmingly more popular with staff when it was piloted in summer school last summer. I do think that it's good instruction. I don't think it's as good as being in a classroom with your teacher every day. So there you have it. And the BPs and ARs don't go into the details on our program, but I just gave them to you and I welcome your questions and public comment.
All right, and with that then, we will go to the public hearing portion of this. This is the opportunity for public to give us input before the board considers and approves these. And so I see one hand has gone up. I welcome any other members of the public who have something to provide at this point to raise their hands. And with that, I open the public hearing for BPAR 6158.1. And our first speaker is Carol Ann Coleman. All right. Has Carol Ann been unmuted?
No, I just have very slow internet. That's how
Okay.
long it took. Anyway, welcome back. Beautiful board and Ms. Hanson. My question, it's just a clarifying question about the Edgenuity program, and then also having like a go-to teacher for questions. Like, is there going to be a set day or days? Like, will the kid be expected to check in with a teacher Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and let's say Friday is asynchronous? And what is how are we keeping track of that? And if you already stated this in the presentation, I apologize. I've been just working all day today. Thank you.
Bonnie, you're still muted.
Sorry, I'm still trying to get used to the Zoom thing. That card's been played and gone. Carol Ann, in answer to your question, the kids will have a synchronous class period once a week with the Edgenuity teacher, and then we will be tracking student attendance. Students will have to attend and make progress on their classes on a daily basis, and students who are not will be returned to the comprehensive high school. There's a whole list of tracking instructions from the state that were listed in the BP that we will be following. Carolyn, I appreciated a note that you sent about the struggles that you saw kids have with Edgenuity this summer when they didn't have a teacher working with them. And I, especially in math was your example. And I don't disagree with that assessment at all. I think the other thing that's going to be very helpful is that they're going to have paper tutors available to them 24/7 a day. Interestingly, anecdotally, the vast majority of our usage for paper is in the area of math.
Wow. Okay. Can you still hear me? Because I still have 42 seconds left.
Yes.
Okay. So that's great. I guess my next question is how is it looking for the district to have teachers at the district office to be able to help all the students that will potentially need the independent study? Is that insured? Are you foreseeing that we might have difficulties getting teachers to help with the Edgenuity?
So we're looking at outsourcing to Edgenuity teachers the independent study program, or most of it, for the reason that you just expressed. Once the board, assuming the board approves our independent study program, then I will put that online tomorrow morning, and we just have no idea at all how many people are going to sign up for independent study. And the thing that makes it even trickier is you can opt in and opt out of independent study as many times in the next year as you want to. There's no deadline like there is with the request for retention, with the grade changes. This can happen at any point during the year. So it's it has the potential to be unwieldy, which is why we're setting it up the way that we are. We do have a few independent study teachers who are already on board for the year, who are working with our kids who are independent study already. But that's why for the rest, we're looking at Edgenuity.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment before we close the public hearing? Going once, going twice. Concludes the public hearing. Okay, so we are ready to move down to our action items. We'll begin with 15.2, approval of the board policy 6158.1, independent study. Is there any board question or comment on the presentation?
I have one question. Sorry.
Okay, Shawnee's, you got going, so go ahead.
Sorry, I couldn't find my hand raised thing. Bonnie, do we know or can estimate the number of people who are interested in independent study?
I have no idea.
You don't have a crystal ball?
I don't have a crystal ball, but I will tell you that it is the question. So I meet on a regular basis with the people who do my job in the districts around us. And the elementary schools have a little bit of better of an idea, but really at the high school level, we don't.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Here we go. Put on your seatbelts.
Okay, thank you.
Isabel, I did see your hand go up and then back down. Did you have something you wanted to ask or share?
It was kind of answered. I was just gonna clarify that we just have no idea how many students may sign up for this. Wow.
Yeah, and I very much agree. That's really the kicker here. It's been provided as here's an alternative we have to offer. We're trying to make it be the most robust and highest quality we can be. I hear from your presentation that we have made some improvements to our overall independent study program with this impetus. And we think that we really do have good partners lined up to maximize the flexibility. But at the end of the day, we are running into the kickoff to this alternative pretty much blind. We could be surprised by a huge number of families showing interest in this, or virtually nobody, as everybody's thrilled to get back into the classroom. And we just have to be prepared to do the best we possibly can, whichever end of the spectrum or wherever in the middle demand ends.
Yeah, I mean, like everyone else on this Zoom, I'll take a Sequoia Union High School district teacher all day, every day with kids in the room for sure. But what you're saying is true. We are doing the best that we can to offer a quality opportunity for students. And it's very difficult when we don't know if we are talking about 40 kids or 400 to plan as completely as we would like to. So we're doing our very best. And I think we're doing a good job, but it's a pickle.
Yeah, I think the key is going to really be for some of the families. I know people can go in and out of these programs, but that actually impacts academic outcome when you don't have a consistent education model, whether it's Edgenuity or whether it's in the classroom. But if it's inconsistent, it will impact the academic outcome. So we have to really make sure families are really thinking about what's best for that student's outcome and what they're going to have to do in order to support a child in independent study, because it won't just be the student. It will need to be support of the parent to support them in being present.
Okay, if there is not other board question or comment, I would welcome a motion for approval of board policy 6158.1.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Okay, so we can move on to Item 15.3, the approval of the administrative regulation, 6158.1. Again, are there any board questions or comments? And Chris, your hand is up.
So Bonnie, I had planned to ask you the question of why the administrative regulation doesn't have dates in it. You need to sign up for the program by X date, and you've answered for us. There are no deadlines. You can opt in and out, or opt in or opt out at any point. My colleague Shawnice has talked about how that's educationally inappropriate to move back and forth between different curricula. Does the state mandate that we not have any restrictions on when someone opts in or out?
The state
signing
says
up
we
for
have,
the program?
the state says that we have to return a student to campus within 5 days if they are not doing well in the program, and that families can move in and out of the program. One thing that's been clear is that this particular piece of legislation, when you look at the 104 and the 130, this is causing the most concern in the academic settings, and there's already been some follow-up legislation, and I think that we can expect more on this. I mean, we're fortunate. We have an independent study program that meets the letter of this requirement. There are so many districts out there who have no independent study program at all, and they are scrambling to put something together. So they're going to have, districts with fewer means than ours, districts who haven't found a program that they're reasonably happy with. They're going to have to do some follow-up legislation on this. But yes, as it stands right now, you are correct. There's no, I think that if it's a family where the student is doing fine, that we would probably say, hey, can you please wait and make the change at the semester? It would be better for your student. But that's down the road.
I wonder whether we could provide guidance within the policy to advise that it's not good to, these programs are not meant to opt in and out of willy-nilly and can be detrimental. I realize that would mean looking again at the board policy, but perhaps we could do that subsequently.
I think that I would probably recommend that we not do that in the policy, but that we do that in our registration of students for the program and our consulting. Any student who signs up for this will meet with their counselor at their home school, and then they will do a consult meeting at the district level before they go to the program. If they are a SPED student, then their application, after it goes through their counselor, will be routed to Ilya and her team, because there are concerns about how do you meet the requirements of an IEP in this sort of a program. So there will be conversations and eyes on every single one of these. I say that because this is language that we got from council, and I think it's solid for our purposes, and that we can achieve the nuances of what you're talking about even better in our conversations with families.
And I don't mean it as nuance, actually, but something stronger than that. But I take to heart what you've said and hope the district, well, it will encourage the district to provide that kind of guidance.
Thank you. You're right. Nuance was the wrong word.
Isabel?
And so am I kind of incorrect in thinking that, say, a student were to get COVID and suffer from it for several months, that they could like opt into this instead of having to do kind of like real work from home, but like they could opt into the independent study?
They could, but that same student could have opted into home and hospital before this legislation happened.
Is home and hospital different? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I haven't heard of that. Okay.
So I think for me, the key to all of this is that this is legislation that is kind of aimed at the schools have to provide an option for the students who are not comfortable returning to the classroom. And here's the blanket way of saying, okay, you got to do at least this. And It's kind of a base level mandate saying this has got to be available, and everything we've got is already in compliance with that and beyond. Really, where our district focuses on this is how do we optimize our independent study program to really make it be the best possible solution for those students who need that. And as long as that remains the implementation attitude that we have with this, and Bonnie, you've talked about the conversations, the counseling, the the recommendations against bouncing in and out of it like a ping pong ball, to really treat it as a necessary and appropriate academic accommodation or alternative for a period of time, and then making it as strong as it can be within that context. I think that is the intent and the desire of everybody on the board, and I think that is how this is in accordance with the way we run the independent study program and our intent to follow this policy and this AR. So with that, I'm very satisfied and comfortable. If nobody has any other questions or comments, I would again welcome a motion for approval.
I'll make that motion for approval, or the second.
All right, Rich and Chris were first and second, but it was a photo finish, I think. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, unanimous again. Okay, excellent. All right, with that, thank you very much, Bonnie. And I would like to return to action item 15.1, discussion, consideration, and approval of the third amendment to the employment agreement with the Associate Superintendent of Administrative Services. And Dr. Williams, I'll kind of piggyback with you in presentation of this.
Yeah. And so I make the recommendation to the board based on the evaluation.
You're still muted.
Oh. Thank you. I wanted just to say that based on the evaluation which was presented to Associate Superintendent and then Interim Superintendent for the last school year, 2021, Crystal Leach, that the board considers a third amendment to her services agreement, which if approved would adjust Associate Superintendent Leach's duties and compensation to reflect her return to her original position after serving as interim superintendent. It would also extend the term of Ms. Leach's existing employment agreement to June 30th, 2024.
And I'll follow up with that the board was very excited to come to this determination. As we completed the interim superintendent evaluation, the board was in very strong agreement that Crystal's performance during this incredible year and this incredible challenge of a battlefield promotion she received was extraordinary. The responses from everybody on our senior staff was so supportive of her work. Our community has spoken enthusiastically of the time she spent in the superintendent's seat. And we went through the most challenging period of time this district has faced in living memory. And Crystal not only kept the doors open, kept the lights on, but moved the district forward in substantial, significant ways. And we are thrilled to have the opportunity to secure her services for another year beyond the end of her contract and make sure that Crystal remains a key part of our team going forward. So thank you very much, Crystal, and we hope this is pleasing to you. Okay. You're welcome to say something if you like, but we can move on if you're...
I would just like to say that this is the third amendment and I've just been here 2 years. So we are counting. You know, I'm a counter.
Okay, we'll see if we can keep up that pace.
I'll make a motion to approve this third amendment to the employment agreement.
I would like to second that.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous again. All right, and that moves us on to discussion and approval of the governance team goals.
Thank you, President Sarver. Over this past July, we had the opportunity to meet as a board with the superintendent to discuss our relationship in terms of the board setting direction for the district and the superintendent carrying out that direction. And so with that, we had the opportunity to also discuss what our goals are and what direction we wanted to go in as a team in the best interest of the district. Considering the COVID pandemic and its impact on schools, and not only our school district, but school districts nationwide, and also wondering how we might welcome back our students and staff in a context that's going to respond to the greater needs of our community. And so with that, after much conversation and debate and deliverance, we came to the conclusion, or the board came to the conclusion, that they would identify goals that not only support our students, our parents, and our families in the way that we conduct business and on behalf of our constituents, but also in consideration of the landscape in terms of equity, in terms of expanded leadership opportunities, in terms of organizational efficiency, and just to continue to strive to be the best district within not only our county, but nationally recognized for our instructional program, for our extracurricular programs, for our school leadership, and most importantly, again, for our equity inclusion efforts. And so with that, I'd like to take this time to personally thank our Board of Trustees for selecting me and entrusting in me this position and to work and to lead our wonderful district. Also, I'd also like to thank our Board of Trustees for starting the hard and difficult work of having conversations about equity, but also remaining connected and committed to ensuring that all students within our district receive the quality, robust education that they deserve. And so with that, I am proud to present our Board of Trustees governance goals as of July 31st, 2021. So first, the district will strengthen innovative quality instruction by improving attendance, engagement, rigor, and preparation for college, career, adult, and civic responsibilities for all students. And all includes all of our students who are in our high school program, as well as our students who are in our adult school programs. Number two, the district recognized that equity requires strategic and sustainable action to meet the needs of every student and employee. We commit to design and implement structures, systems, and policies that achieve equity in our instructional, institutional, and employment practices. Number three, the district will ensure the well-being of students, and students will receive appropriate academic, behavioral, and social-emotional supports, including full implementation of multi-tiered system of supports at all sites in the district. Number four, the district will support and promote successful student outcomes at the district's small schools and alternative programs, as well as adult school. Number five, the district will offer full in-person instruction to students, building on innovative practices from distance learning. Number six, the district will initiate a long-term effort to data share with our K-8 partner districts and community college districts. These 6 governance goals represent the thinking, also the direction and the commitment of our Board of Trustees as of July 31st, 2021. And these goals will also, once adopted, be posted on our district website and will facilitate the actions, leadership actions, and also our engagement with our community, with our students, and with our staff. Thank you, President Sarver.
Okay. Board questions or comments before we go on to approval? I would make just one overarching statement that this was the fruit of the 2 days of retreat that we held last month. It was by far the longest and most in-depth retreat that I've ever participated in my 12 years on the board. This governance team deeply engaged in conversation around all of the goals, very deeply on the topic of diversity and equity. And I think also did a lot of work on governance team operation as well, that had not been done before or not to this depth. It was a very productive retreat. We're very excited by the goals that we came out with. As we have seen aspects of this beginning to go into place in some of the presentations that have already occurred during the course of this evening, the work being done, presented on the website, and leading to the reopening of our schools, and really seeing Dr. Williams at the helm with all of this, I am increasingly excited about where we're going and how strongly we've stated the direction that we're going in. So I'm very pleased to see this, and I'll turn it over to Shanice.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. I heard you say something that, just made my heart jump and realize you were saying it and I didn't read it, but you included the Sequoia Adult School. And so I don't know if that actually needs to be written in there, because if there's people like me, I'm like, oh yeah, Sequoia Adult School is part of the district. That's before I came. So just making sure what you said was also in writing.
Yes, and then that would require an update. And we will do the update and then provide a follow-up to the board.
I didn't know we spoke substantially about the adult school, and we had the intention of that being included. So I would be willing to see that amendment included. Is there a board agreement with that? I'm seeing nodding from Chris and Shanice, which is 3 of us. All right. So we do indeed want that included before they go out. Okay. Any other comments, or is there a motion for approval with that amendment?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The board goals for the coming year are approved.
Can I make it after the fact? Quick comment. Sorry. I would love to get the laminated version again that we can carry around. It's hard to memorize every word, and I really do carry it around. So I'd love to have that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'd also love to see a great big version of it on the walls in this room.
Absolutely. And that shall be done.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right. And finally, All right, that brings us to future agenda items. I do know that one of the things I am looking forward to is a review of our board calendar for the year coming up in a very soon version, as well as the superintendent's 90-day entry plan, which are going to be two just extremely critical and exciting. And I know likewise, coming up at our next board meeting is going to be a report on the start of school, which will be a critical follow-up to the plans we talked about tonight. Carrie, I see your hands up.
Yes. Couple of agenda items, suggestions. The first suggestion, I know that we're going to be going back to school tours as a governance team. And the last time I was at Tide with everybody else was before it opened. So I don't think we've been there in a really long time, or as a group since it opened. So that would be my first priority, to do a school visit at Tide, if everybody else agrees. And do you want me to do my second suggestion? My second agenda item request is based on what came up at our retreat. I know Rich brought this up, and I'm very thankful that he did this after a conversation with school counselors. The topic of MTMDSS, which is multi-tiered, multi-domain system of support. And we have spent the money on hatching results, which I'm very excited about this. I'm very excited that we are going to have a comprehensive training for our counselors. So I think it would benefit the entire board to have a presentation on hatching and what they're doing, as well as more information about multi-tiered, multi-domain systems of support. And then third thing is just a community, just an update. I wanted to say that Redwood City Together, I think I mentioned this before, the new executive director, who's just phenomenal, really wants people on that body to be out in the community. And he really wants everybody serving on a committee. At first I was like, oh my gosh, I really can't do one more thing, as you all know, as trustees. But I'm really thankful I've been part of welcoming Redwood City. And even though I've been part of this, Redwood City work for a long time, I think you don't really kind of get it until you're out there in the community. So from being part of this committee, a couple of things have happened. I was part of the OIA conference, very small volunteer role. I was just passing out lunches. That conference was virtual this year. And so I got to see the families, driving by with the students to pick up their lunches, and the enthusiasm for this leadership conference that I didn't know much about. And then I've now participated, I think, in my 4th or 5th meeting, and I have just so much admiration for what this group does when it comes to welcoming our immigrants into our community. So I'm just very grateful to the leadership of the new executive director, and all the work that goes on in really trying to bridge our communities together. And although I was very reluctant to do more, I'm excited to be part of this work. Thanks.
Bonnie.
Yes, as far as agenda, I know I've mentioned one of these things before, is really looking at community leadership as part of our governance calendar, and hoping that that could be a piece that's on there so that we can kind of think about like Redwood City Together or other community activity, or just the charter programs or whomever, we don't need to have it every month, but just making sure it's at the top of our mind of our community leadership responsibilities. Then the second thing, I've mentioned it in our agenda setting, but I'm pushing it forward because as we talk about our kids and we talk about equity and really giving compassion and love and inspiring our students, is really changing our language with how we talk about our kids and our students. And I really I know Bonnie has heard me, and I think I sent you a late email because I didn't respond for a couple of months. But anyhow, I know you love me anyhow, though you got it 2 months later. But just really thinking about how we talk about our kids. And I know that federal and state law hasn't caught up with more strength-based language, and wanting us to talk more about, even though we have to write it in our LCAP and all that kind of stuff in a different place, but how we talk about it openly, especially as I assume students are listening to us and parents are listening to us, how we talk about kids who are living in an alternative situation, how we talk about our kids and what the labels that we give them. And so, yeah, it's been coming up more since the last, intensive board meetings of the last year, that actually biases can come out in how we label, how we talk about our kids, how we talk about our community. And I think that would change the climate and the environment in which our students are living. If we can do it here, then hopefully it permeates into the sites as well. Thank you for that. Appreciate that, and it is noted. And actually, as we move into more discussion about equity, diversity, and inclusion, we want to be mindful of our constituents and ourselves, and as we respond and speak about ourselves as a community. So thank you for that reminder and that accountability piece.
Okay, let's hear from Chris, and then we'll close with Dr. Williams. Oh.
I'm going to turn this off so I don't get the feedback. I'm wondering if we could get a calendar list of the agenda items that have been agreed upon. One, I think it'll be good for us discipline-wise to look what's ahead before otherwise we will tend to just always add more. And I think we would like to be a little intentional about that. So I have nothing to add except to ask for the list. I think in the past, we've got a calendar or we show it. I mean, even showing it on the agenda might be worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so hopefully that we'll be in a position to do that probably at the next meeting. But Darnice,
yes.
I bet you have a lot to report. I think you've been a busy little girl.
I have been a busy superintendent and a busy woman. I have been. I've had a chance to visit school sites, to welcome our students to summer school, participate in summer bridge activities. I was challenged to I believe it was a rap competition. And one of our students told me that he had bars, and I didn't know what bars were, but they were lyrics, and that you would come and you would make these rhymes. And so I didn't do a great job, but it was a fun experience. But also saw the work of our teachers and how they continue to push through. It's like the example we were shown with the wood today. Even in spite of everything that's going on, they continue to work and show up every day on behalf of our students and on behalf of our families. Been able to work and walk and introduce myself and interact with our staff, our departments, to let them know that I am working alongside of them and that I am excited about this school year. And I want to be, and I plan to be, a visible resource and presence in our community. And so I just like to thank again our team this evening for a wonderful presentation. Looking forward to more information such as we presented today. And then finally, I'd like to say I am looking forward to our next board meeting when I have the opportunity to share with you my 90-day entry plan. And the 90-day entry plan comes at a time when I've had an opportunity to immerse myself in the culture of the district. It wasn't a plan that I just crafted and I just walked up with a generic plan. It is a plan that is specific to feedback from our board of trustees, from our principals, from our students, from our classified staff. Every arena within our district. Every stakeholder has had an opportunity via community welcome meetings, conversations. If I've seen someone, I've actually been in restaurants and I've seen some of our stakeholders, our parents and students. And so just to let you know, I'm excited to represent the Sequoia Union High School District, and just know that there are more things to come, great things to come. And so thank you all, and I am more than ready to serve and have been serving. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. You know, we haven't stopped and just said, welcome tonight. It has been very exciting to have you aboard.
Thank you.
The energy with which you've hit the road here, you are at a full run.
Yeah.
And you also know where you're going.
Yeah.
I've been with you on a couple of sites. I've had the privilege of seeing your energy and enthusiasm with staff and students in the classroom setting. This meeting has been kind of an example. We've had a lot of meat and we've progressed through it in an effective, timely manner. We're wrapping up earlier than we have done in a long, long time, but I feel that we've had a very strong evening of work. Between now and the next time we meet, we will have students in classrooms, and we're going to have a lot to talk about 2 weeks from now. I'm looking forward to that. With that, welcome motion for adjournment.
I move for adjournment.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say good night.
Good night.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.